ChatGerry, stroke risk estimation, not prediction, using stochastic method, number 1537, VPT090, February 16, 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation, category stroke. Preface: my way of thinking does not come from a single academic field. It was built from mathematics, physics, engineering, computer science, and later from psychology, physiology, and pathology. These disciplines trained me to see systems instead of isolated numbers and to understand input and output, stress and strain, accumulation and failure, stability and instability as parts of one continuous process. Because of this foundation, when I look at medical data, I do not see laboratory values. I see a dynamic system. I see energy flow, structural change over time, and a trajectory. I see a movie rather than a snapshot. I entered medical research for one reason: survival. After multiple metabolic conditions, 9 mortality events, including a hemorrhagic stroke, my body became the most important system I have ever studied. That urgency forced me to integrate everything I had learned over 6 decades. My deepest lessons came not only from professors and industries, but also from pain, fear, suffering, and from the eyes of my wife and children when I faced 9 mortality events. I do not write these papers to show academic credentials. I write them so that other patients and their families can understand disease earlier, reduce risk earlier, and avoid catastrophic outcomes. Introduction. After my stroke on June 21, 2025, I asked 2 simple questions. Why did I not see it coming? How could I have reduced its likelihood? This paper does not attempt to predict a stroke date. That is not the goal. The goal is to estimate structural vulnerability and relative risk level. Stroke is not a random lightning strike. It is the result of long-term vascular deterioration combined with a triggering hemorrhagic condition, 1 acute hypertension at 175 mmHg. To study this mechanism, I used 2 key indicators: pulse pressure PP, a marker of arterial stiffness, mean arterial pressure map, the continuous load acting on the vessel wall through blood flow. From these, I developed the trigger sensitivity index, TSI equals PP 45 excess BP 120. This index represents vascular strain by amplifying the combined effects of systemic blood pressure SBP and struct eural stiffness BP on aging vessels. Stochastic method: the core idea. In real physiology, no variable stays at one exact number. Every value fluctuates slightly over time. Therefore, each annual TSI data should not be treated as a fixed point, but as the center of a narrow natural fluctuation band. The instability boundary is TSI equals 1.0. Stroke risk is not a specific date. It is the proportion of time the system resides above this boundary. That is the meaning of stochastic thinking in this study. TSI ranking over 13 years and stable years 2024. TSI equals 1.092023. TSI equals 1.052025. TSI equals 1.05. Transition year 2019. TSI equals 1 o'clock. Stable years 2022. TSI equals 0.982020. TSI equals 0.962014 and 2026. TSI equals 0.952021. TSI equals 0.942015 and 2018. TSI equals 0.832017. TSI equals 0.812016. TSI equals 0.79. This ranking shows that instability is concentrated in a few specific years, 2023 to 2025, rather than being the continuous condition. Notably, my stroke on June 21, 2025 occurred within this unstable period. STM analysis results: same dataset was previously analyzed using 3 different approaches. VMT quantifies cumulative energy and irreversible damage. TATA maps the geometric trajectory of system evolution. STM evaluates how frequently the system resides in the unstable region. The mechanical hierarchy is clear. 3 physiological drivers: PP equals 88%, MAP equals 61%, FPG equals -57%. Pulse pressure is the dominant cyclic load driving rupture risk. Mean arterial pressure provides the background structural stress. Long-term glucose improvement pulls the system back towards stability. 3 time-dependent factors. TSI equals 98%, real age equals 61%, base risk equals 10%. Aging accumulates damage, but TSI governs the transition. This behavior follows the classic viscoplastic principle. Accumulated degradation reduces the safety margin, while the external load determines when the threshold is crossed. Stable period 2016 to 2018, first transition 2019, recovery 2020 to 2020 to return to instability 2023 to 2025, structural improvement 2006. back below 1.0. Same data, 3 methods, one meaningful 3 analytical approaches examine the same longitudinal dataset and lead to the same structural interpretation. VMT quantifies the amount of accumulated damage. TDA reveals the direction of system movement. SIN shows how frequently the system resides in the unstable region. Same data, same trajectory, and same instability threshold. There is no new disease mechanism is introduced, only the mathematical language changes. Conclusion: this study demonstrates that stroke is not a sudden random event. It is the outcome of long-term structural deterioration combined with a triggering hemodynamic load acting on an already weakened vascular system. Chronological aging contributes to gradual damage accumulation, but it does not by itself create instability. The actual transition from stable to unstable is governed primarily by TSI, which represents the magnitude of the trigger load. 3 methods and datastone conclusion for patients. The practical meaning is direct. If daily metabolic and hemodynamic loads are reduced early, cumulative structural damage will also be reduced. If large pressure spikes are controlled, the probability of crossing the instability threshold and experiencing a catastrophic vascular event will decrease. We cannot predict the exact day, but we can move the system farther away from the instability zone. That is the real purpose of this research: prevention through structural understanding and early intake. Prevention. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights belong to the author. Gerald C. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.